Whirlwind.
As ready
as I'll ever be.
I know what you mean. All right. So let's just give it one moment to make sure that we're connected here. And I think that we are. Let's just check. Wonderful. It is my immense pleasure and joy to have my dear friend, master astrologer, Pam Gregory here today with us. It's an absolute honor, a pleasure. Thank you very much for making time in your extremely busy schedule to come and be here today.
No, it's always a joy, Bracha. You have a massive following, probably the biggest, I think, of any astrologer on YouTube. So, I bow to you, and it's always a huge pleasure.
I think we've frozen. Pammy?
What?
We're back. We froze, and now we're back.
Okay. Off we go.
So, Pam, I thought we might discuss sort of a little bit about the rest of April. We're moving into eclipse season. We're moving into quite a lot of things are coming up, and I think we just might discuss what the astrological weather looks like.
Yeah, there's a lot of it.
Yes. So where should we start, Pammy? Over to you.
It's just I've now got several hundred people calling me Pammy. That's also, it's very endearing from you.
Not allowed to call me Pammy anymore. It's an adjustment. Otherwise, you're going to call me Barbara. That was the threat.
I am. Yes, tit for tat. So yeah, I mean, let's start with the Libra full moon this coming Saturday, because that is very powerful, because the closest aspect is Pluto making a T-square to the sun and moon. That's a very tight T-square. So I think it's just a huge amount about not only what I've been saying in the video about power and the abuse of power, which is very much Pluto and Capricorn, how power has been used by external authorities, how you have used your power or given your power away. It's all of that. But I think it's also about a purging really starting to take place in a major way. Purging around structures in society, Capricorn, that no longer offer our highest good. Pluto is often linked to even criminal activity, underground, underhand, murky stuff that's been secrets long buried, repressed, pushed down, and all of that I think is starting to bubble into the light of the full moon. It's interesting. It's in Libra. I just wonder if some major legal cases are going to come up, because the two signs that, as we know, are connected with the law, Sagittarius, the truth, and Libra, the scales of justice. I know a lot of legal cases are happening, going on behind the scenes. So it would be very interesting to see if anything comes to light this week. But also that Saturn, which is going to be square the nodal axis really for the next month, is all about being wise with our choices. What social structures are we building for the long term in society? What are we actually taking action to contribute to? And what are we just sleepwalking into, the old, same old Saturn, the past, old fossilized structures? Because I think we've got to be so aware in these tumultuous, pivotal times that we don't just sleepwalk into fueling and energizing same old, because a parallel society is being built right now.
Yes.
Right now.
Yes.
I know that, it's happening. So we have to be really, I think it's a real choice point, that Saturn in a T-square to the nodal axis. Don't you, Bracha?
Absolutely, Pam. Yeah, that's a real, really brilliantly put. And what I would say is it goes against the grain of our sort of reptilian brain to be able to go against the herd, the default, if you like, because we like to go with what we know. And often what we know and that which is familiar is more comfortable than stepping into the unknown.
Totally.
Right. So it's almost like, as you say, this thing about sleepwalking. it's almost like got to keep pinching yourself awake and keep saying, right, am I going with the herd? Because people do go with the herd. We do, because we would have been killed in the past if we didn't go with the herd.
Absolutely.
So,
sorry.
No, please. So how do we go against that? Well, how do you do that? How do you manage that in your world?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because Saturn very much to me is not only government, the way we've always done it, but it is very much linked to structures of the past. And that's why in its clash to Uranus, which gets much tighter in October, that, this is the struggle between the past and the future. So, I very much think of the Buckminster Fuller way of doing things. And there's a brilliant quote, which I can't quite remember, but essentially it was about, you don't destroy the old, you essentially just starve it of energy and put all of your focus into building the new. And that's certainly what, I am passionately devoted to in my life in lots of different ways. Just ignore it, just starve it of energy. Okay, what are we going to build that's beautiful and sharing and communal, where we all come together and build the society we really want to live in, with joy, with laughter, with hugging, with friendship, and the joy will come from that human contact that we were so starved of during the lockdowns. We appreciate it zillions more than we ever did. So, our whole value system, Uranus in Taurus, has turned on its head in the last couple of years. Nobody's buying stuff. People are buying seeds, not stuff. So it's a radically different view of the world we want to create. And that's why it's so exciting. It's happening now. And, I've often said, I think we're going to have a new educational structure, medical structure, political, financial, legal. All of that's happening right now. All of that's happening.
Yes.
And that's the exciting. And if you can get into that energy and how exciting it is to play a part in that, you don't have any time and energy to look at the dismal old, fossilized stuff that's crashing around our ears like, old scenery in a well-worn play.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah, absolutely, Pam. Yeah. It's just, I think Buckminster Fuller was saying, once you create that new earth and you begin to create that new reality, then the herd will come, because they're like, hey, what's this? What's this? This is interesting. This looks good. Ooh, look at that. You see, and we're seeing now that we've got to come up with alternatives. Yeah. Even my landlord here, he's resisted for years putting in solar hot water. I mean, we live in bloody Greece. We've got about 300 days of sun a year. We shouldn't be paying for hot water. Yeah. So he's done it now because the prices have just tripled. But it's taking that push. It's almost like it creates a discomfort for us to say, right, as you said, with COVID, we really missed one another. We missed, but now the difference is we've got a purpose to do together. Yeah, individually and together. And that's the square of the nodes, isn't it? That's this.
Absolutely. And as you're talking, it's so much Uranus in Taurus, because Taurus wants to keep things as they are, stay in the comfort zone, don't rock the boat. It's all just fine here. I'm going to hunker down. And Uranus says, not a chance. I'm a wrecking ball that's coming in. And, just shake that up big time, whether you like it. So you choose to shake it up, or you have it shaken up for you, which is much less comfortable. But that's what's happening. Uranus is community, collaboration. And that, I think, is what is so exciting. And people are taking initiatives, and it's happening quickly.
Yes.
And there's just a whole alternative society that is happening right now. And I don't know where my thinking was going with that. I had a better thought that I've just lost. But anyway, that's where we need to put our attention. That's where, just don't give another ounce of breath to the life support system of the old stuff, because it's not healthy for us. It's not helping us.
Exactly. And don't allow yourself to get caught in the old fear and trauma and all those sorts of things from the past. Just decide that you're moving to something new, because people they're shedding an old skin. Yes, that South Node in Scorpio, just shed it like a snake and, move free. Yeah, and Taurus is about planting our gardens, planting our seeds, as you say. the animals, nature, Mother Earth, the soil, all these things. It's really
and
getting
it's
to
joy in simplicity. You know, many of us have never grown a thing in our lives, but it's the joy in learning a new skill. It's the joy in connecting to the earth, I think, is just been amazing, because, you know, we've tended to live in cities or apartments or, you know, concrete, you know, many of us have been separate from nature. That's been the so-called modern, civilized, sophisticated society. But to get back to sort of put your hands in the earth, as it were, and plant, there's something very fundamental about that connection. And of course, you're connecting to all the healing ions that the earth is giving off. Apparently, that's the best oxidant you can have by a mile, way better than any supplements you can buy. Isn't that interesting? So, you know, we're really kind of remembering and rediscovering that. And that is going to be a major part of our future, where we're going.
Yeah, it's really exciting. And I think that if you begin looking around now, there are all kinds of new groups, decentralized finance, decentralized money groups popping up, gardening, construction. I mean, there's so many new things, and people are sharing what they've got. Yeah, we're sharing it. And there's not so much of the middleman anymore taking things out. We're able to transact directly with one another. Yeah, simplicity again. Taurus, keep it simple. Yeah, Taurus doesn't like a lot of, you know, knobs and buttons. It's like, you know, on and off, please. Yeah, what is it? And let's.
That would have been great getting onto this webinar, this talk. That would have been really good, on and off switch. But anyway, here we are. Yeah, you know, I really, really agree. And it's so interesting, isn't it, that we just yesterday had that Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. And, you know, I think part of that is about an increase in hypnosis and psychosis. Another part is about a mass unveiling. And Neptune in particular, as we know, Bracha is linked to, you know, the media and pharmaceuticals and drugs and, you know, toxicity and all of that. And I wonder if that's really feeding into what this full moon in Libra is all about as well. Because there is potential for shocks and surprises. Got a very tight conjunction between Mercury and Uranus. Surprising, shocking news coming out.
Yeah, that would not be surprising. And especially as we move towards July, when we've got Uranus on the node. So it's like, I think we're going to get black swan after black swan. Yeah, I think there's...
With Mars too. It's Uranus, Mars, the North Node conjunct. End week in July, first week in August. I mean, woof. Talk about explosive energy.
But it's also explosive breakthrough energy. Yeah,
it is.
Explosive technologies, explosive ways of doing business and trading with one another and having value. It's like putting value behind what we do, valuing our work, value what we do. There's something about when you've worked for something, you feel differently than when it's just come in a lottery.
It's a much greater sense of satisfaction, isn't there? And, you know, it's almost with Uranus, because it's linked to higher mind. It's almost like we're going to see things from a higher perspective, a higher point of view, with a fresh view on all that we've lived through. You know, suddenly, you know, the veil falls from their eyes, the old biblical thing, and we can suddenly see a situation in a way that we didn't see before, because Uranus can be the piercing sword of truth here, the piercing sword of clarity, together with, you know, the secrets, the murkiness, the unveiling. You know, there's some quite strong messages in here about what might be coming along through April, that I think will be very, you know, I just said in the last video, I think 2022 is actually the most intense year. And I think we're in the most intense period, or just entering the whitewater rafting, if you like, of the most intense period, which will continue the whole year now. I think this is it. This beginning of the eclipses is just a headlong dive into fast moving events, seeing things very differently, shock, surprises, trying to find your footing, especially with that that Jupiter Neptune, which continues until really the 11th of May. Where's my foundation? Things I trusted, South Node and Scorpio, betrayal, things I trusted and believed. And it's also, I think, the Sun, which is so tightly conjunct Eris. It's like Eris I see as taking things to the tipping point of really revealing old belief structures that no longer serve you. Just redundant, just dead and gone, just old shells of the kind of life that we used to believe in. It's dead and gone. On a higher energetic level, it's dead and gone. We're just living it out at the 3D level right now. Do you feel that, Bracha?
Yeah, and absolutely, Pam. And also, I think things are really speeding up. What used to take donkey's years, we can get done in a month. Yeah, it's like the speed with what the changes that we can make do not have to take generations.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's very exciting. Yeah, it's like you're alive now if you're listening, or you're coming later. You're living probably in one of the most exciting times of humanity's evolution.
Yeah, beautifully said. And I know the thing that's prompted it. Thank you. The thing I was going to say before, because, the last 2 years have been incredibly tough for people, and continuing to be in all kinds of, financial, emotional, help. We're very well aware how much tragedy that's caused. And not only has that helped us to feel grateful for human contact, but as a result of this pandemic, people have been galvanized to form groups and make connections which they would never, ever, ever, ever have made without those tragedies, ever. There wouldn't have been the impetus, there wouldn't have been the motivation. I have met amazing people in the last year. I mean, people with whom I am heading into my future. Real soul tribe, real same frequency, which is so exciting. I wouldn't have met any of those people. So, the pandemic has handed us a great gift, I think, to accelerate the finding of our soul tribes, our spiritual family. I really think so, because otherwise we would have stayed in our Taurus comfort zone, wouldn't we?
Yeah, we would. And we're building up to, of course, as Uranus goes into Gemini, I mean, that's going to be another shift. So we really need to get our groundwork in place while Uranus is in Taurus, don't we? Because once it goes into Gemini, I mean, that is just the escalation, the speeding up of the technological advancement. Would you agree, Pam?
Absolutely. Yeah. It could well be communication Gemini with galactics, Uranus.
Yeah.
Could, who knows? I mean, you do it already, but, for more people.
Disclosure, shall we say? Yeah.
Big time. I think disclosure is going to keep on. There is going to be so much that's going to keep sort of rolling out. Because what are you feeling, Bracha, about the solar eclipse in Taurus?
Oof. Yeah. Well, we've got. It's interesting because the solar eclipse, if we look at the pack of the planets, the leading planet is Mercury. Yeah, Mercury in Gemini in rulership leads the rest, if you like. It's sort of at the beginning of the train. So I think, obviously there's a lot going on there. The themes are, to me, money, the earth, the animals, creativity, values, your gifts, your talents, the practical and the ethereal, because we've still got that energy of Pisces going on. So I think we've got a lot of different energies, but the Mercury in rulership, because it goes retrograde in Gemini as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So we've got Mercury in its ruler for quite a few weeks, longer than usual. And how are we going to use words and communications? Are we going to use them as weapons, or are we going to use them to heal? I think it's words and information and data and statistics, and whether you're going to sleepwalk with the Piscean energy, or whether you're going to use the Taurian energy to say, right, okay, what's real here? And how do we work on this new paradigm? What's your take on this eclipse?
Yeah, it's very, very interesting, isn't it? Because that also, to me, I mean, the two signs that represent social media to me are Gemini and Aquarius. And so there's an awful lot happening in social media, positively to connect us, and less positively because, let's say, it's filtered, increasingly filtered,
Yes.
stunningly, breathtakingly filtered. Um, and and again, you know, at this new moon, which is great because it's a big new beginning, and the sun and moon are conjunct Uranus, and that's exciting. Again, there's a feeling of a whole new level opening up to us of truth, a whole
Yes.
new level of truth that links with the Mercury in Gemini, but is very much about that Uranus too. You know, again, shifting, awakening, shifting to a higher perspective yet again. So I think that is going to be really fascinating. And it's also very beautiful solar eclipse, because not only is the big new beginning, but you've got such feminine energy here. A lot of planets in
Yes.
Taurus, a lot of planets in Pisces.
Yeah.
There's an exquisite creativity, fine perception, aesthetic ability, spiritual perception. It's very, very feminine. And I think that's, you know, that's really beautiful. And you've also got Pluto trine the North Node. And so there's a sense of us being able to step into our power in an easier way because it's a trine. And also that very rare, I mean, it's rare to have a Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, it only happens once every 166 years, as we know, but to have Venus in there too, exactly conjunct Jupiter, is even more rare. And it's often a suggestion of success or romance, even if it's falling in, you know, fifth or seventh houses, as we know. But there's something very fine here. And also I see that Jupiter-Neptune conjunction as a need to move forwards with more spiritual meaning in our lives, greater spiritual meaning. If we're stepping into our power, we better make sure it has a spiritual context to back it up, not a material one.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. I think somehow we have to find new ways to understand what value is. What does it mean to have value? Because there's been so much greed. I mean, even now, I look at the cryptocurrency markets, yeah, and quite honestly, I'm dizzy. I'm dizzy with the. There's no stability. There's no sense of of Taurian, a little bit of stability of an interest rate or a stable thing. You know, Bitcoin can go up 20,000, it can go down 20,000. I mean, these are massive, they're massive uncertainties, opportunities for a lot of greed and a lot of going into the old energy, you know, big losses, big gains. It's got to be backed by something. There has to be some value behind what we are transacting with one another. Does that make sense? And
Absolutely. And I think that's a really, really good expression of the Taurus energy. Really fabulous expression of, you know, what's solid here, what's really tangible and solid. I agree, you know, that the crypto market, and, you know, I have really zero knowledge on it, but it's all air to me. It just feels like air. And, you know, other people are much more knowledgeable, and that's fantastic if they know what they're doing. I just feel I'm dealing with air. I just have no grasp of the dynamics which make the market work. It just not, you know, can understand the stock market and what drives the dynamics, you know, if they get good clinical trial results or whatever, but I have no understanding of the crypto market. And, you know, as I say, lots of people do, and that's fabulous, but I'm way behind on that. But it's air. Again, it's what's the foundation?
It's air. And I think that we possibly don't find our way with the digital currency until Uranus gets into Gemini proper. But what I think is interesting is we've got now, just talking to you triggers this, we've got the Mercury going retrograde in Gemini. Then from August, we've got Mars for 7 months retrograde in Gemini.
Incredible.
Yes, we've got this lot of Gemini frequency, which is the hands, the arms, you know, making things, constructing things.
The lungs,
The language, different languages? Are you speaking my language? How we use words again, because the power of the word, it can kill and it can set you to life again. A doctor's words can be a death sentence, can't they? An
Yes,
absolute death sentence to somebody, or they can bring somebody to life. So
totally.
we've got to, how do we use words? And I'm going to say that because of all these retrogrades in Gemini, this is a very important opportunity for us to really re-examine what we're doing with words. Because, I mean, look at the media, as you say, the media, the manipulation, the lies, the deception, the illusion, the delusion. How do we know what's true? How do we find out what's true?
I think we have to check in with our own intuition. I think it's got to come back to us, and whether you just have a kind of gut sense of that, a knowing hit of what's right and what's wrong, whether you use dowsing or kinesiology or ask your guides or whatever, I think it's got to come back to us, because they're just wild swings in various narratives that are happening. But I actually wonder as well, Bracha, with that Mars in Gemini, I mean, it could be a lot of angry words happening, but it could also be a lot of energy going into new social media platforms, which I think will absolutely happen.
And is already beginning. But
Yeah.
yes, I think there is more and more and more of that happening. I mean, 7 months is a long time for Mars to sit in Gemini. Yeah, I mean, that's a long frequency. It's like it's a really long tone that we've got to somehow align with. And so what would be the highest expression of Mars in Gemini? As you said, the new social networks, and, being very aware, I mean, countries can go to war with just a few words. That's it, right? That's it. We're at war. So, and it's Mars. So Mars energy with words, we've got to really use it extremely constructively. At least that's.
Absolutely. And we've got to be so aware of this, haven't we? I'm so aware, and I know you are too, that, we have had thousands of years. We've had eons of tit for tat, polarity, wars, poverty, disease, he's right, she's wrong, on and on and on and on and on. And so if you give even any attention, I think, to those kinds of polarities, you just, again, energizing what we absolutely don't want. So I think we've really got to, have this higher perspective of where are we using our energy, our mental energy, Gemini, energy, Mars, where are we using our mental energy? We've got to become much smarter as a humanity in understanding our thoughts become things. Our thoughts become things, and our emotions become things. They're not just wafty, ethereal, don't really matter, woo-woo. They are the generators of material matter. Look at an architect. He has an idea, he draws it up on paper, 2D, and then it becomes, 3D bricks and mortar. And that process is what we're doing with our thoughts all the time. We're just not very aware of it. So maybe Mars in Gemini will help us with that.
Yeah. And I think we need to develop for ourselves, because I think the age of Pisces, many people did not develop this, is critical thinking skills.
Really? Independent thinking, wouldn't that be good?
Right. But that's huge. Yeah. That is a huge ask, to be able to be the one who stands up in the room and says, no, I don't agree with that. I don't think that's going to work so well. And to be willing to say, yeah, because I think with this Uranian age, with this Aquarian age, we must respect the diverse views, and somebody else may just have the key that we're looking for, and it may go against everything that the group is saying.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Because Uranus is also your individuality, having the courage to step into your individual, unique self, and that's really interesting, because as long as we are infighting, we are, perpetuating what we don't want and delaying what we do.
Exactly. So I think it's very important that, because it's almost like we have to elevate to a new way of being, new human beings. Otherwise, we're just going to go back into this lizard brain again, which we see around us in the way it's operating in certain horrific situations around the world. That's not difficult to see. But consciously, I think through meditation, through whatever thought processes, practicing of thoughts, and am I going too much on my intuition? Because maybe your intuition is not always right. Yeah, maybe we've got to question that as well. So that's how I'm seeing that this Gemini energy is we've got a fine balance between the mind and the words, and those words becoming flesh. And what do we want that to become, as you've said? Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that really, really interesting? What you were saying, Uranus in Taurus isn't just a great symbol for new Earth, Uranus new, Taurus Earth, but it's also the new human, because Taurus is our physical body, our cellular body. So that's being upgraded all of the time right now, whether we're aware of it or not. So we are becoming the new human. And I mean that in the most natural, organic way. I'm not talking about anything else.
We're not talking about Taurus is not hybrids. Gemini is, all right? When we get into Gemini, then we're into hybrids and all sorts of alternatives that we possibly couldn't even think of at this point. But Taurus, as you say beautifully put, Pam, it's the new human with the heightened sense awareness. Taurus is very much the senses, the sensual, physical experience of life. And, what are we really seeing? What are we really smelling? What are we really tasting? And really heightening all those elements of our experience of life. Life can be ecstatic.
Yeah, that's really, really well observed. Beautiful, because it so links with the Jupiter Neptune of this heightened psychic sensitivity. Everything's in brighter colors. We can have telepathy with animals. The trees come alive, the plants come alive and, speak to us. Some people can hear that, pantheism, all of that. And I actually think, isn't it interesting, Uranus in Taurus, that it could even be that we are going to see new species developed, which we've never seen before. And they may even, we've always had this kind of geometry of the Fibonacci sequence as being foundational in nature. And maybe it isn't going to be that particular geometric structure. It's going to jump to a different harmonic and produce different species.
Yes.
Is that a possibility? Literally, new human, new trees, new fish, new animals that we haven't seen before. I think that's really, Uranus in Taurus, that's really possible.
It is. In fact, it's probable. Yeah, it is. New fish, new bacteria, new insects. Yeah, because we're going to need different frequencies. As you say, it's a whole new frequency energetic that's very powerfully healing. Yeah, there's so much healing possibility here that transcends what we have known so far, or maybe even what we have been told so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, Uranus is all about frequency, isn't it? And the geomagnetics of the Earth and what's happening with all the solar flares and, the instability of Earth. It's very exciting. I just read something before I hopped on or stumbled on into this conversation, but it was from a channeling, and it was essentially saying, because we have we have raised our consciousness so quickly, that's partly contributed to the destabilization of the Earth's magnetics, because we are on such a fast track with our consciousness.
Wow.
So isn't that interesting? Because we've got this constant biofeedback with the Earth. We're not separate from the Earth as we thought in our sophisticated new society. We are so profoundly connected to it, aren't we? We're living on it, we're standing, there's a constant feedback. So as we raise our consciousness, that has to be echoed back into the Earth, because the Schumann resonance at 7.83 hertz, which has been its historic stable point, that has always been the alpha wave for humanity, where you feel, well-being and creative and relaxed, etc. But with these rapid upgrades taking place, it may be that the 7.83 doesn't apply anymore. It jumps to another Hertz level. We just don't know yet because it's all in process. Is that a possibility?
Wow. It's like everything becomes possible. Yeah, it's this energy of air that we're going into, strong airy energy. It's not very stable, but it is infinite. And we share it. And it's something that we all share, which is the interesting thing, even though we don't necessarily see it. And now with our internet and the possibilities now moving forward with our technology, I think we are, as you say, just on a different frequency level, which makes the impossible possible.
Yeah, fabulous. And also I think we're going to realize that reality is so much more malleable than we ever thought. It's so, we think of it as so, who was it, Einstein, who said that, what was it, solidity is an illusion, although a very persistent one. It was something like that. So, we just have this sense that we are solid beings, and we're not. It's interesting, people who've had strokes, and I feel this myself, if ever I have a healing session, I just become vibrating energy in waves. I'm no longer solid. And people who have strokes sometimes say that they can just sense that they're just waves of energy. They're trying to go up the stairs and, their feet are going through the stairs, or they can't pick the phone up because their hand is going through the phone, that we have this illusion of solidity, but we are just blending with our unique frequency, but we're blending with everything around us in a much more morphing kind of way than we ever perceive, or we've ever perceived up to now. That's my sense, and that will get stronger with the shift into air, I think.
Yeah, oh, most definitely, but beautifully put, because that's very much the Uranus in Taurus energy. It's like we're going beyond that solidity. Uranus is breaking up the illusion of the solid. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
It's exciting, isn't it? Because it's so empowering. We're stepping into becoming co-creators once we can get this stuff and shut off the news and turn away from all the dismal, and I'm not saying not to be compassionate. There's all kinds of stuff we can do. We can be of practical help. We can send money. We can send light. Very much recommend sending brilliant sparkly diamond light to anywhere where there's darkness. So it isn't that. It's just we have to stay in a positive emotional place, because if we go into anything negative of despair, anger, hate, he's right, he's wrong, we're just plunging back into same old. So Jupiter Neptune brings up our compassion, brings up our heart opening, and there's lots we can do to help other people. We really want to in a much bigger way, but keep your frequency in a good place, so you're not just diving back into the murk, because then it just goes on and on and on. And how many thousands of years has that been going on? I think that's in the song. How many thousands of years has this been going on? And we have to, this is a pattern interrupt time. This is a massive transformation for humanity, which has never, ever happened in human history. It has to be a pattern interrupt. We've got to up our game to do better than this. That's my feeling.
Yeah. Beautiful, Pam. And I think if every day each one of us does our best to do better, what can I do just a teeny weeny bit better today than I did yesterday? And go for that. Some days you may do well and some days not as well. Okay. But just keep going for that, stretching the possibility for you, because you are infinite. Yeah, you're an infinite being. And we've just kept ourselves like that elephant who's been chained up all his life, and they open the gate and he stays on the, he thinks he's still chained when he's not.
Yeah, it breaks my heart. Really breaks my heart.
Yeah.
But it's, it is, you're absolutely right. It's being the best version of yourself every day. And the other thing I've started to do, especially this year, running into Jupiter Neptune, was every morning as I wake up, I say, I live in a world of magic and miracles. I live in a world of magic and miracles. And miracles, as you well know, Bracha, have been happening for me. And anybody can do that. I don't have any special magic, potion myself. But it's just if you believe that will happen.
You're right. And you're Scorpio rising, so I know you won't share the personal bits unless you really want to, but I won't push you for that. I know, it's all right. Scorp rising, they don't, private stuff. But it's true. You're absolutely right. What I've started to do, and I'm finding is amazingly effective, is I am attributing the highest possible characteristics to every person I interact with. So I am seeing them in the most amazing light. Yeah, who no matter, and you know what? They are becoming that in front of my very eyes. It's amazing. It's like, wow. Yeah, that they're becoming
Brilliant.
that higher version of themselves. So let's begin to see the higher version of whoever it is that you are interacting with. Like when I'm with you, I just think you're terrific. I think you're amazing, Pam. Yeah?
I think you are too. Well, I think you are too, but it's brilliantly said.
Thank you.
Brilliantly said, because, I think, because I often say that to people who, contact me and say, somebody close to me is very, very ill. How do I handle that? And I'll always say, well, although as, women, particularly as human beings, but women in particular, we're always very sympathetic. Oh, poor you, you poor thing, you must be really hurting, let me make you some soup. But actually, it's almost to see them in their strength rather than see them in their weakness.
Yes.
I know this is tough, but boy, you have kicked off way worse than this. You're going to get through this.
Exactly.
You're just fine.
Absolutely.
You're strong. You're naturally, you're in very good health. You're just going to kick this off in no time. And the effect, that placebo effect, is very powerful on the brain. I mean, lots of studies have been done with that.
Yeah. And especially, if you know somebody who's got a so-called terminal disease, I would be sharing with that person all the people who've been cured from it, who've been helped, who've come through it, so that you create this feeling of faith and trust that, it can be done. It can be done.
Millions of people have done it, millions, and that's, but I think it's beautiful to do that, see the best in everyone you meet, because it actually changes the dynamics of every relationship.
Every relationship. I can't tell you how many relationships I'm seeing transforming under my very eyes, of people who are usually grumpy, quite grumpy when you walk in. Now they're like, oh, hello, how are you? And it's a big chat. Or I go in the chemist, he never used to be so friendly. Now I ask for a pot of Vaseline. He said, yes, take it, off you go. I'm like, I've got to pay. No money. So, people are changing just as you give them that space.
Yeah. And it's a mirror dynamic, isn't it? And also, I probably have mentioned this on one of our previous chats, but I once read something about become a smile millionaire. And everywhere you go, smiles just ripple out. You smile at the chap in the garage, you smile at the chap in the pharmacy, you smile at the chap in the the local store, whatever, and it just have a great day, lovely to see you. Isn't it gorgeous sunny day today, which is rare in Britain. But just always leave them. I think leaving people better than you find them is a good principle in life as well. Beautiful. See the best in them, leaving them better than you found them, and be a smile millionaire. However cheesy that sounds, it's a lovely thing to do, because it lifts you too. It comes back to you.
It does. Absolutely. No, I mean, you're absolutely right on, Pam. Yeah. I can see my dad. We had all his false teeth and he smiled at everybody. He didn't care. Doesn't matter, teeth or no teeth.
So have you looked further down the road, Bracha, at the total lunar eclipse? Because that is one heck of an eclipse.
Right. I've been more focusing on this solar eclipse as it's coming up soon. It's right on my moon, but I would love to hear a little more. Yes. Would love to hear a little more about what your take is on the the lunar eclipse in Scorpio. That is an intense one, isn't it? Oof.
Right across my ascendant-descendant axis, eh? Whoopee. Oh, goody. But the solar eclipse on your moon, I think, is the birth of a higher emotional state.
Oh, God. I hope so,
do.
Pam.
I do.
That could
In the house, well, I don't know if but in the house of, lovability and all of that. I think that's really lovely. That could be. I see solar eclipses generally as very positive because they're big new beginnings. I see lunar eclipses as trickier, especially if they're across your ascendant-descendant axis.
is you creating an entirely new persona, a new identity, a new way of seeing yourself. To me, this it's an ending of old limitations. You may even become a little more public.
Not a hope. Not a hope. But yeah, it's, this is really very strong energy indeed, isn't it? I mean, we've got the moon conjunct the south node here in this, full moon opposition score. And it's a total solar eclipse. So there's so much here about secrets from the past coming to light. The moon conjunct the south node quite tightly by less than 3 degrees. So much from the past is going to emerge. Scorpio, toxicity, pollution, betrayal, secrets of the rich and powerful, financial, sexual, underground, underhand. Woof. And I just see a lot of, I almost want to say sewage of all kinds being dug up.
I was seeing sewage, actually.
Yeah. Because Scorpio is linked to sewage, isn't it? It's linked to, before we get into too much colourful detail, linked to elimination, isn't it? So it is linked to sewage, but it's really digging up the murk. And on the other hand, you've got Uranus already conjunct the North Node, not super tight, but it's operationally conjunct the North Node. And on the other side, you've got North Node in the middle, Uranus on one side, and the Sun on the other. So again, this is like a brilliant spotlight of truth beaming into all that very, very murky, dredgy, icky, where we don't want to look, but we're going to have to look. It is my feeling. And it's not going to be pretty, but this could be an absolute game changer, I think, with what comes out there. I think it's like a breakthrough energy. And because Uranus is starting to move on to degrees where it hasn't been for 84 years, it's like we're moving on now to very different territory in our understanding of truth.
Yes. Yes.
Do you know, I have much better ideas when I'm talking to you than when I'm doing my update videos. I don't know why that is. Just sounds that I have much better ideas.
It's the same, because you come up with something like, I hadn't thought of that, and then that sparks something else. So look how working collaboratively, especially if you're on a wavelength, because I feel very much on a wavelength with you, Pam, and you're very inspiring with all the things that you come up with. It's like, wow. So,
well, I only come up with them because I'm speaking to you. I didn't come up with them before, I joined this. So there's something that we're sparking, in talking the same language here. And that it certainly for me brings up better thoughts than I had 2 hours ago.
Well, it's great. You're doing the same for me. Absolutely. Good. And I love what you're saying. If we can be aware that this scorpionic energy is coming up, to be careful that you don't end up with your nose in the toilet. You know what I mean? That you look at it and you say, and there may be emotions that come up, and just don't resist them, right? Just don't resist them. Have them. You may have that feeling in your gut, like, whatever it is, just have it and let it move through you. It's a bit like if you've got diarrhea, you've just got to let it out. Yeah, you can't sort of hold it in very long. So whatever needs to come out, I think, will come out around that time, won't it, Pam?
I have a very strong sense. I mean, it's going to keep coming in waves of sewage, if you like. But this is one of the peaks, I think. And because Pluto is really just at those last couple of degrees in Capricorn. You know, it has to do its job around Capricorn structures and secrets while it's doing that. It starts to move into Aquarius in March 2023. And yes, it backtracks again back into Capricorn. But, you know, we're on the final stages of digging up the murk. And I think this total lunar eclipse is a big part of that. I mean, Scorpio is really deep stuff. Not always very pretty, very healthy, very legal, very ethical. It's dark. It's dark.
And it's intense. It's intense. It's got this drivenness to it. Yeah. Almost like an obsessive quality comes out.
Yeah. And because it's South Node, the moon is conjunct the South Node, I think so much is going to emerge that may have been hidden for a very, very long time. I mean, I'm not talking weeks or months or years even. I'm talking a very, very long time. But it's part of the collapse of the old order. This is a really vital part, because it's so powerful, total lunar eclipse, of the collapse.
Yeah, absolutely, Pam. Yeah. I mean, these eclipses are really, really strong. Yeah. But it's like we're coming into, and with them being in fixed signs, you can't ignore them, right? A fixed sign just sits there, right? You can't just say, oh, bugger off. No, you have to deal with it. A mutable, you can kind of go round a little bit, can't you? Yeah. A cardinal is often onto something else, but the fixed, whatever stuff you may need to face, be ready to face it, because chances are it's been in your way, or it's been in our way collectively, to moving to these higher frequencies.
Yeah, we've got to clear out the murk, and we're going to be digging deep, Scorpio, as you say, Bracha, with very intense feelings and emotions. But we've got to, there's something about the Aegean stables or something, but we've got to clear it all out in order to move to this kind of very fine crystalline frequency more fully.
Absolutely. And it's beautiful, because I mean, I think that's what a lot of people are realizing. We've got heavy metal toxicity in our bodies. We've had a lot of fluoride. I mean, there's all sorts of things that we've been toxified with. So I think a lot of people are doing a lot of detoxing in order to renew the cells, the crystalline structure of the body, as you say, so that we can be fresh and be renewed. And I think Scorpio energy encourages a lot of that as well. Like, oh, let's get it out. Let's purge. So a good bloody purge.
Yeah, and purging is such an important word here for Scorpio, isn't it? Purging, elimination, cleansing, getting rid of all the toxicity, collectively, individually. We've just got to do that, because these crystalline energies are so pure. We're never going to get there if we're still, just covering over the murk. And so, I know people who can actually see the crystalline geometry in the air. They can see it. That's what we're moving towards. It's incredible, isn't it? It's so exciting. So, and that is also Uranus, isn't it? I see that as very pure, crystalline, higher frequency coming in, but we're not, and that's conjunct the North Node. So that's where we're headed as our future collective destiny. But the other end of the lunar eclipse, the moon, is saying we've got work to do.
Yeah, exactly. And just as long as we know that, and you don't get phased when it's like, oh, wow, maybe I do need a good liver cleanse, or maybe I do, or whatever it is that you need personally for you. It will be different for everybody. But just tune in and say, all right, this is a wonderful opportunity to clear a load of old baggage. Yeah, maybe I'm holding on to a load of stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe from, great grandparents or whatever it is you're hanging on to, that's in your physical space, your mental space, your emotional space. It's a very big purging for all of us, and also looking at ending what we're doing to the toxification and the chemtrails and goodness knows what else. This too has to be brought to light.
Yeah.
So that we can.
Yeah, it's been crazy here in the UK. I mean, everybody's talking about it. It's just been insane levels. So, but it could well be secrets that we collectively have not been aware of, on a mass level until now. Some of us have, some of us haven't. Nobody knows it all. But, we're going to be facing a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And it will, in many ways, it's wonderful, isn't it? When you begin to get it out of you, you start to feel great. The arthritis goes, the stiffness goes, the pain goes. Yeah, because the things that have got crystallized and stuck are freed up. So I think as much as this is not necessarily a nice process, because it probably isn't, let's be honest, you can feel nauseous, you can have headaches, you can have some symptoms, but afterwards you feel like new. So if you can see this as something that is going on for a while, but if you will do what you need to do for you personally to clear out what comes to light at the time of the eclipses, it will come to light, because that's what eclipses do, show you stuff that you don't necessarily want to see. But if you can work with that, then afterwards there's a reward for being willing to go through the sort of scorpionic suffering phase. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And if we're headed towards, more air in the future, more, Uranus moving into Gemini, etc., Pluto moving into Aquarius, until 2044. I mean, that's a very long run. We're moving into air that is lighter. We're no longer carrying this really murky baggage with us. So it's woof. That's a heavy number, that total lunar eclipse, but such a necessary one to shift us. It's almost like, the inflated balloon has been weighed down by something underwater, and as soon as all that is let go, it can pop up to the surface in a much clearer way,
and it can just float off. And then you get this bird's eye view as from Mars to the rest of the solar system or the galaxies. I mean, it's the Earth moving to this air energy. I think that our technology takes on a whole new ethical timbre that it's
that
not
would
had.
be really good.
It's got to have new ethics. We've got to have integrity and ethics in the new governmental systems that we create, because that's what the air and the decentralization is about. So I think that has to be a big focus.
And isn't it interesting, the battle this year, which will come back very strongly in October, Saturn square Uranus, one of the main aspects this year, is one of the big themes there is centralization versus decentralization.
Yes.
And financially, we can see how that's playing out. And, I think the governmental structures, if we have any going forwards, are the power of the people.
Must be.
People's councils, assemblies.
People. I mean, a bit like what they're doing, I don't know if you've read the Anastasia books, where in Russia, and I think this is already going, where people are given a hectare of land, they plant their own trees, they have their own animals, their own home, they're given that land, and it goes through the generations. It's very, very powerful. They work in communities, they work together. It's been extremely successful.
Is that actually happening, Bracha?
Apparently so, yes.
Wow, that's a beautiful concept.
I'd love to hear some more, maybe from some Russians or people in those places, as to what's happening. I'm not sort of on the ground level, but I think we're going to hear more of that, and there will be more examples of that.
Well, people, certainly in the UK, and I think it's happening all over the world, are coming together and sharing, their gardens. They're like, I'll give up my garden to do X, Y, Z if you can teach me how to grow vegetables. Whatever it is, there's a huge, positive surge of I want to share with other people. We're no longer separate. We're operating as a collective now in a really loving way, and it's bringing out some beautiful sides of people, because it's bringing people together, and we're not focused on the division and the polarity. We're focused on what we've got in common, how we can help each other.
And it's also, no, sorry, Pam. Beautifully put. And it's also giving people a purpose, something bigger than yourself to be focused on. and saying, right, let me learn some skills. Let me do this. And you're waking up in the morning thinking, oh yeah, I've got some people I'd be working with, and they might be online. Yeah, a lot of people haven't necessarily found the physical tribe yet. Some are, some haven't quite yet, but you can still find tribes online. There's lots and lots and lots of them. And there's some amazing new communities in every single life area, medical communities, financial communities, educational, for children. It's everywhere, artistic, musical.
Absolutely. You know, I was talking to someone, a music teacher the other day who was, you know, having a very difficult time at the school where she was teaching. And I said, well, leave and start your own. And she kind of did a dog turn. I said, well, why not? You can do that and get together with other teachers teaching other subjects. And that's exactly what she's done. And there's a group, I think, of about 10 teachers now, all teaching children in the local area. And it's just so liberating and creative. It almost becomes like a mini kind of Steiner school or Montessori school for the children. You know, you get rid of these very restricted curriculum or curriculi or whatever you call them. So it's just happening in lots of different areas. And you know, Taurus is going to be about learning life skills, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, for our own security, etc.
Learning to grow nutritious food, delicious food, eating together, growing healthy things. I mean, what could be nicer? Listening to music, creating clothes that are healing with healing materials. What we wear in materials on our skin can be healing to the organs inside the body. I mean, there's so much here.
There's so much, and it may even be, you know, Uranus in Taurus, that that the colors will heal us, but also it may even be that clothes are invented which change color to reflect your own frequency.
Beautiful. Yes. I mean, around clothing is going to be a huge area that we're going to have a lot of advances.
I really think so. Taurus, appearance, fashion. And not fashion in the old sense, fashion just in a much more, as you say, Bracha, healing sense, fundamental sense of how can we improve the quality of our lives, even down to our clothes.
Even that, exactly. Oh, Pam, do you know, I could talk to you for hours, really.
Well, we do, don't we?
Very busy, but I do hope that you would come back.
Of course.
And have another chat, because this has been very fascinating, stimulating, enjoyable. I hope it's been the same for everybody listening. I hope that it's inspired you. And Pam, you're such a pleasure to be with. And
you too. I mean, as I say, you spark ideas in me that I hadn't had before I hopped on.
Exactly the same. So mirror, mirror. So really a huge thank you, Pam. And
a joy, pleasure.
Come back.
Lots of love. Certainly will. Lots and lots of love to everybody. Lots of love.
And Radhika, thank you for doing all the moderating today. You've been terrific. Thank you very much. Much love to you all. Thank you. Thank you.